Tommy McGregor, welcome to the show.
Thank you. It's good to be here, man. Uh, I've been real looking forward to talking to you. Appreciate you having me.
Yeah, and it's around a subject that's really hot right now, which is graduation. And that's the
Sure.
thing we're going to be kind of getting into. We're going to talk about, what can we do to get students ready? What's the culture like? Why is this season so important to youth pastors? I know that many of them are wrapping things up. They're trying to have their graduation day. They're trying to do dinners. They're trying to have lunches. They're trying to make sure every kid has, uh, their Bible or, whatever gift they may be giving out. They're also struggling maybe because now 10 kids have shown up that's this youth pastor has never seen before, has shown up to
Yeah.
church wanting to participate in the graduation. So so we're going to try to help them in the midst of all this. We're going to try to help. Before we get into that, though, tell everybody a little bit about your background in youth ministry, whether it's you as a young person in youth ministry, attending youth group, maybe if that's your background, and then also maybe your professional work in youth ministry.
Yeah. Well, I guess it did start. I was involved in my youth group when I was in high school. I was seen as a leader in my church and my school for in my faith, and was my our youth pastor. Somehow I became like the president of the youth group, which like I still to this day don't know what that means because I didn't really. Yeah, I know I didn't do anything. I
El
kind of helped with the
Presidente.
schedule. I know it was like I was. I mean, I kind of it was kind of the I was there the most, maybe I was so anyway, I got a couple extra phone calls and had to go to a couple extra meetings to plan stuff, but that was who I was in high school. Then, and this is, I don't want to get into my whole story unless you want to, but then I went to college and wandered in my faith for 3 years. And there's a lot of reasons for that I have spent the rest of my life trying to figure out an answer. But kind of came to my senses and by my senior year, reconnected to a calling to ministry that I had really felt since about 16 years old. Um, Graduated from college in 1994, went straight to seminary and became a youth pastor. And part-time youth pastor, full-time youth pastor, full-time seminary student, but part-time paid and
Oh
all of
yeah,
that. And
yeah.
did that uh, through seminary, and then moved and continued in youth ministry for either church or parachurch ministry for 16 years. And then 2010, I left the ministry that I was working with students and started the Launch Mission, which is what I run today. I've been running it since then. So I guess was 14 years. And so what, this is my 30th year in ministry, and um, have been working with students either directly or um, providing content and working with parents and training youth pastors, all of that since then over the last 14 years with the Launch Mission.
Sure. And by the way, and I don't know, I think we need to start including thank you for your service as it applies to pastors. Just thank you for
Sure.
your
Yeah,
thank you
that works. Uh,
thank you for your
Even
service for the many
though,
years. I mean, they're
yeah,
wars of a different kind. Okay, let's just face it.
that's true. No question.
There are spiritual battles of a different kind. So we'll let that apply
Absolutely.
in a different way. But let's go back real quick to, and we won't do let's frame it this way. Does your passion for working with the Launch Mission, which is obviously helping youth pastors help their students, how we don't want to throw any shade on your youth pastor. If you could if you could say, how well did your youth pastor prepare you for college? Well, in other words, did did you wander because maybe there wasn't enough preparation for that? Or was that just a willful, look, youth pastor did his very best, did all he was supposed to do, and I just said, I'm out for a while.
It wasn't even conscious decisions. I mean, um it was just an unaware of what I was about to go into, being unprepared and unaware for the environment that I was going into, not understanding. So I'll give you this quick little analogy that I've used many times. When you're whitewater rafting, you and the water's flowing really well. You have to steer a little, but basically you just kind of hang on and enjoy the ride, because you're going
Yeah,
down, you're going
sure.
down the water, and you're going the way that the water is going to take you. So in high school, for me, in my faith and in growth in my faith, that's kind of how it was. Um, I had all the things in place. I had Christian friends, great church, great family, parents, mentors in my life. And it was like just going down the rapids when the water's flowing. I'm just hanging on and enjoying the ride. But at some point, the water gets deeper and the waves go away, and you have to know how to paddle and actually steer. And that never happened until I went to college. And I didn't know that the water was going to get deeper and I had to steer. I just was, and I'm still hanging on, trying to enjoy the ride and not going anywhere. And
Me
and
too.
I and so to keep the analogy going, I was up a creek without a paddle and went and just kind of steered off and didn't even know where I was going until I was pretty far off the course. And I'm looking back thinking, I don't even know what's going on.
How did I get here?
And how did I get here? And that's why I do what I do, because if you just either don't do anything to prepare students, or if you do the typical stuff, they're, and of course statistics support it, they're going to go down that same kind of path.
Yeah, was there anything your youth pastor could have done differently that would have prepared you, or was that kind of like it was just too much? It was just such a
Yeah, I
tsunami
mean,
of newness that you know couldn't have been avoided.
I know what they could have done, because I now train youth pastors to do those things.
Well,
But
what do you
in
what do you
the
wish they would have
setting
done?
of, I wish that they had said, this is how you have been growing in your faith. This is how, this is the environment that you're in now in high school. This is what it looks like in the setting of college. So it's not like you have to do a lot of different things, but you have to begin to make a shift in your mind of, I've been growing in this environment. Now I need to understand how to grow in this environment. And so I need to know how they're different, um, what is available to me then that's not available to me now, or vice versa. Um, what are the kind of the pitfalls to look out for? And to make a real distinct difference in those two environments as someone growing in their walk with Christ. That's what I wish had could have been done. And then I would have, because I knew I know I was very intentional about my faith and about walking with Christ. And I would have said, okay, that gives me a vision for who I can be in college. But I didn't have that vision. I just felt like I was just going to keep doing what I'd always done. But I had, uh, and every high school senior that's grown up in church has four major spiritual influences: family, friends, church, and mentors. And I had those in spades. I mean, I was the poster child for, a high school Christian growing in your faith. I had all four of those spiritual influences in my life, and they had taught me and discipled me and helped me in my faith. The difference between that person in high school and the person in college is now the expectation is that they're going to continue to grow and continue to be in community and continue to make wise decisions and continue to just mature in their faith, but they're going to have to be doing it for the very first time without those four influences in their life. And I wish someone had told me how to do that. And just that's what it's going to look like. Because for me, it was just going to be going down the rapids in the same boat, doing it the same way that I did it in high school. And it's completely different from that.
So you needed a new boat.
Yeah, I needed a lot of things. I needed a new
A lot of
boat.
things.
Yeah,
New skills, new paddling
new skills,
techniques.
new paddles, maybe even new swimsuit. I mean, I needed it all.
Hey, all the newness, which then brings us to this, talking about this graduating class, right? We're talking about these guys here. What is it about this current graduating class that youth pastors should be concerned about? Just like when you walk in, you can make the comparisons, obviously to what you walked into, and is there any difference between what the current graduating class is walking into versus what maybe you walked into? Is it turned up to 11? Is it different in some way? Tell us a little about that.
Yeah, I don't know that it's incredibly different. At least for the student, it's not different because I mean, my life in college looked the same to me, very normal to me because it was in the same period of time. It's going to look the same to students now, but and the challenges are about the same. But when we hear all the statistics and everything else about how many Christians don't continue to grow or they fall away from the church or however, whatever one you see, I don't feel like that is a college cultural problem. I feel like that's a discipleship issue. And so, it's the same. It was the same for me as it is for them, just in a different generation. I mean, there's things that they have now, technology and other stuff, but when you really kind of look down to it, they need to understand how to grow in their new environment. They need community. They need to replace those four influences that they had in high school: family, friends, church, and mentors. And those are the same things that I needed to do. I just didn't know.
Yeah, and I can see why, and I love the fact that you connect it with discipleship, because I think sometimes we separate out those things, but I think it's all discipleship, and I'm a big discipleship guy, because I think it's and it's such an important part. It's not just youth pastors, obviously parents, family have a portion in discipleship process, friends have a portion in the discipleship process, church has its portion in the discipleship process, right? They're all contributing to the ongoing followership of Christ. So the question then is, what then, or when then, does the youth pastor, for those that are listening, those that are watching, where should the youth pastor set his mind to when that process really begins, right? You can't do it their senior year. That's a little late.
No.
So
Yeah.
when do you think the process begins for preparing students to graduate, and why then?
Yeah. I would say 5 years old, I mean, that's not the youth pastor, but it is, I mean, it starts as soon as, okay, so if you're talking to youth pastors, it starts when they come into your ministry. But when does it start for the individual? I'd say at the very beginning of when they begin to have this sense of of Christ and what it means to walk in faith with him and all of that. Because you got to ask yourself, what are you actually doing? Youth pastor, what is it you're doing? Are you preparing them for college or life after high school if they're going somewhere else? No, you're not preparing them for college. You're equipping them for ownership in their faith to handle the next stage of life. So as you know, and we'll talk about this at some point, but I do a training. I've got a book called Bridging the Gap, and I go through that in a training. And one of the key questions in this training series is to ask youth pastors, what is your number one goal, your ultimate goal in your ministry for your students? And when I ask that to them in a workshop type setting or something, a lot of them are giving me feedback like, we want them to walk with Jesus, we want them to understand serving, we want them to be in community, and all of those things are true. But if we go deeper and say, what is your ultimate goal for ministry? My answer to that question is to prepare them for the next stage of life in their faith. Okay. So if a parent is doing that all the way through, and then if a children's minister is preparing children to thrive in their faith in middle school, okay, and then a middle school ministry is preparing these students to thrive in their faith through high school, and then a high school ministry is teaching them to thrive in their faith in the college years, and then hopefully you continue in community and with mentors and stuff, because a youth pastor can't teach them how to be a Christian at 40 years old, married with kids, but you could teach them how to be a 20-year-old Christian in a college setting. And so that's what I consider their ultimate goal. And so whenever they come to you, you take them and help them to understand what it means to take ownership over their faith. I always say no one takes their rental car through the car wash. Why? Because it's not their car. They don't care if it's spot clean.
Right,
We
right.
take care of we take care of the things we own. We have ownership over. So if I have ownership over my faith, I'm going to take care of it. I'm going to protect it. I'm going to nurture it. I'm going to grow it. And I'm going to be sure that I make the right connections when I get to a new stage of life, so that I continue to protect and nurture my faith. Um, that's what we need to be teaching them, and through the process of discipleship. And for a youth pastor, that's the college years.
Yeah, and I think it's so important that you said that that youth pastors are not preparing students for college. I think there's a lot of youth pastors who have that feeling, and I know I had it when I was, younger in my youth pastor years, where you thought, we're preparing them to argue with professors. We're preparing them to deal with secularism, or telling them to deal. And the reality is that the scope is much bigger than that. That as far as what the youth pastor is doing is taking their part in the process of discipleship to make sure that they, at 40 years old with children, that they have some of those things, that they did their part in that they carry those things with them. And I just think that's such a critical idea for a youth pastor, is to expand that mindset a little bit, of saying, look, we're not trying to get them ready for that, just apologetically, right? Because I think that's at
Yeah,
least where my
right.
mind went. We try to prepare them apologetically for college, versus what you're saying is, hey, we want them to be a God-loving father at 40 years old that has, children, that the things that they brought from their family, from their mentors, from their church, right? All those pieces and parts made their contribution during that time. What are some things, let me ask this, what are some things that when you were youth pastoring, what are some things that you tried to do in that realm as a youth pastor to help that process along? In other words, trying to get them to that lifelong faith and not just a college faith.
Like for instance, you mentioned arguing with the professor, the apologetics thing. Instead of focusing on that, teach them God's word. I mean, just teach them to know what they believe and why they believe it. And that's going to carry them into any challenges with professors. That's going to carry them into conversations with their friends. That's going to help them see their identity in Christ, and know who and whose they are. I mean, that's that's going to help them, holistically in their faith, rather than for this instance or for that instance. So I mentioned I struggled in first few years of college, and then I kind of got back. I went on mission trip. Got back into it. Then I graduated and went and became a youth pastor. So I was, I guess I was like 23, and I was a youth pastor, and I had my first group of seniors. And I remember looking at them and thinking, you guys are about to go through what was the most difficult season of my life. And so I pulled them aside on a Wednesday night after a thing we had and said, I just want to spend some extra time with you. And so we set up a time, like it was like Sunday afternoons or something, that I would spend about, I don't know, it was probably, 8 weeks or so with them. And I didn't really have anything yet to teach them. But I just shared my story and shared kind of some of the things that I learned and asked them a lot of questions. And we just focused on it. So then the next year I did it a little sooner, and, and just tried to say, this is what that process is going to look like, and this is how you um, live out your faith in the setting of college. And that was really kind of how I started. And of course, then I wrote my first book called Lost in Transition. Um, so probably in '05, '06, somewhere in there, and started to, and basically that book was just all those things that had taught seniors, all along through those years of youth ministry. And then things, kind of developed and progressed into full-time ministry for it. But when it comes down to it, it's like I said earlier, it's like, this is how you grow in your faith in that setting. And 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 this is what it means to have ownership over your faith, and this is why you do that. Um and so one of the challenges I have for youth pastors in the training that I do, is, I call it the ownership wheel. And so it's a wheel with 12 spokes on it, just like a bicycle wheel or something. Each spoke has a place to write. And I say, write down 12 things that you want your students to know about themselves and their faith before they leave your ministry. And so some of mine, the person of Christ, identity in Christ, community, serving, scripture, leadership. I mean, you could come up with 12 pretty easily. And then put them on each of those little spots around the wheel. And now you use that as your curriculum piece. And because it's 12, you can do once a month. You can break it up into quarters. You can break it up into years and spend, a year on a quarter and do that for 4 years, ninth through 12th grade, or however you want to look at it. But, it's like, if you can just focus on 12 topics that you want them to understand and really know firmly before they leave, um, then that's just another way to kind of come up with a curriculum or a theme of
Yeah.
discipleship to kind of help
Yeah.
them through that.
Yeah, a template, right? There you're saying, look, here's a template to put over your ministry. It says, look, here's 12 things. How are you going to integrate that into your youth ministry? Is that a topic for a small group? Is that Sunday school? Is that Wednesday night? Is that you doing a video curriculum of you doing it where they could watch it online
Yeah,
somewhere?
yeah.
Right. So I think that's, to me, that's if youth pastors, if you're not writing this down, let me just tell you, you're failing right now. Okay. Just put that down. That's a topic, man. That's a takeaway that you need to have. But let's talk about some of the other tools, right? That's one tool that you just mentioned out of a toolbox of resources that you offer through the launch mission. Tell us a little bit about some of the other resources that you have
Okay.
that will help youth pastors uh, really nail this down. Those who say, look, I want
Yeah.
to make sure that discipleship, this process is part of our DNA, that when we're programming and when we're doing our teaching calendar or preaching calendar or those things, that these things are going to be a part of that. What are some of the tools that you offer?
Okay, so let me start big picture and kind of scroll down. With um, the ownership wheel is a part of a training that I call mission control. So we're the launch mission where everything's rockets launching kids off. So mission control are the leaders, and so I call any youth pastor stuff that I do mission control. So I am actually starting this summer and then into the fall offering an 8-week training for how to structure your ministry so that you're sending students out prepared. So this starts with your youngest student class all the way up to seniors. It's everything from that curriculum that I mentioned with the ownership wheel. It's from understanding why this transition, um, is so difficult. I kind of frame the whole training into two questions. Why is the transition out of high school so difficult for students, and what do we do about it? So there's that. You can go to missioncontrolcommunity.com, learn more about that. I make it extremely easy for any to afford. Also, with Mission Control, you get my full year senior curriculum that is actually technically separate on my website, but it's going to be a part of Mission Control. It's actually for sale on my website for more expensive than the entire Mission Control platform is. But I think it's a 32-week. It's a full fall and 2 semesters worth. You can teach that the whole year, or you can pick and choose topics and make your
Right.
own.
Right.
So there's even a mini mastermind type thing that's going to be a part of it where youth pastors can kind of learn from each other. So there's a lot there. You can go to the website and learn more about that. So that's the big picture of training how to structure your ministry so you're sending students out. For this year's seniors, I've got a book called The Freshman 15, which is a devotional for your first semester in college. A lot of people give this at graduation. It's a 15-week devotional dealing with the topics that they're going to be dealing with while they're dealing with them, their first semester of college. That's available on our website as well as Amazon, that places. I've got the 3C app, which is an app that helps college students connect to campus ministries and local churches. So your high school seniors right now, they get the app, they put it on their phone. We've got 125 campuses that are represented on the app. There's like 3,000 ministry contacts on the app. So you fill out some profile information, you pick your campus from the list of 125. Then you're looking at all the campus ministries on that campus, all the local churches in the area that are doing college ministry. There's a profile page for each one. There's when they meet and who the contact person is and what their social media is and all of those things. There's a button on every one of those. You hit that button, it sends your profile information that you created on the app to that ministry. So they can actually connect to these ministries even this summer before they ever step foot on campus and say, hey, I just want to know more about your ministry. You'll probably get on their mailing list or they'll contact you or something like that. So that's what I have for this year's seniors. For next year's seniors, I do a podcast, which you have been on, the
Yes.
Launch Mission podcast. Um, the way we do the podcast is we start a new season the 1st of September, like the second Monday of September, right after was it Labor Day. And then it releases every Monday throughout the year from September all the way to mid-August. We walk with seniors through their senior year into graduation and into the summer. And we hit every question that a student, a parent, or a youth pastor, or anybody is going to have about this topic, because we're talking to college professors, we're talking to ministry leaders, we're talking to authors, talking to experts, on all these topics. Um, and it's every Monday we're coming out with something. And then we have a blog on our website, which is thelaunchmission.org. The blog just kind of takes the topic of the week that's from the podcast and goes a little deeper. There's a couple other posts that hit the blog that just kind of help students or parents or ministry leaders just kind of take those topics deeper. So what some youth pastors will do is they will just, of course, subscribe to the podcast, listen to it, either refer it to their students or use the content in their teaching. If I've got a college professor and I'm asking them about all the challenges and maybe the relationship between a student and professor, then they may need to play that to their seniors one Sunday, or just refer to it, send it to them, make sure they're listening to it, ask them questions in the midweek event about, hey, did you listen to it? What'd you hear? That kind of stuff.
I was just gonna say, it
Yeah.
gives you an opportunity to check in with your seniors, right? Say, hey, I'll send you this,
Yeah,
and it's a way for you to say, hey, did you listen to that? Would you give?
that's right.
For me, would you listen to it and give me feedback on it? Does it relate to you in any way? Relate to you in any part of what we're? Because I want to help you, right? I want to help you prepare for this setting that you're going into with your faith. Because I'm sure there's a lot of youth pastors now who maybe it's like, I don't know if I did such a good job with my seniors this year. I'm not so sure I invested in them the way I should have invested, which makes your toolbox oh so critical to the youth pastors listening and watching and saying, look, this is something I just need to have. I need to have this because I want to make sure that I've done my due diligence, that I've done something. I have a resource to connect with my seniors on that allows me to and gives me permission to disciple them in throughout the whole year.
That's right. That's for sure. One last thing is called the Freedom Permit. It's actually a book and a video course for parents of seniors. It really comes into play. August through October is kind of the critical time, because what it does is it challenges these parents to help in the discipleship process this year, and it gives them kind of little activities and things that they can do with their senior. And it focuses on 4 parts. It focuses on spiritual development, life management, community, and goal setting. And so I'd say those are the main things that I've got some other books and stuff, but that's the main stuff that youth pastors can use right away to help guide their students through all this.
Yeah, and listen, that's a lot of resources. That's a lot. That's probably the most comprehensive graduates, seniors, however you want to put it, resources that I've heard of in one place that does it as comprehensively as you have designed it to be. I would ask you then, what are some, besides first of all, going to all the links, which we'll talk about in a minute, all the links for all of these things are going to be down in the notes, youth pastors. So jump down there, get all the things. And what are some tips then, maybe for this year? What's something that a youth pastor can do, whether it's, graduation Sunday, or maybe it's post graduation, some tip that you'd like to offer youth pastors in part of this process, that you can give them, say, hey, you got one last chance here. You got another moment before you ship them off. What are some, any tip that you would offer them to say, hey, make sure you do this?
Yeah. Let them know that because they've left your ministry physically, like they graduated out of your ministry, let them know that you're still here for them, because you've been a mentor for them for however long, and they're now leaving. And if you remember my, four influences: family, friends, church, and mentors, they're leaving you. In their mind, they're no longer your responsibility in their mind, because you're no longer guiding them in the activities of a high school student. But from a faith perspective and from a community and just mentoree perspective, help them to know that you're still here, especially during this transitional period until they connect to a new community and a new mentor, which could be a year plus. Um, in the training that I do in Mission Control, I have I call it the 5-finger follow-up plan, but it's basically 5 steps that I say, even though they're out of your ministry, here's 5 things you can do this fall to just stay connected and help them to know that you're still thinking about them and praying for them, and that you're still here if they need somebody. Because even once they move off to college, you are still the last mentor they've had. And so until they replace that influence, they need to know that you're there and that you care and that you're available if they need something.
So that's so critical. It's so critical that that what you said about letting them know that you're still available. I think because sometimes, like you said, kids think, well, they're shipped off and now I'm just on my own now. I'm I'm like an Amazon package waiting, just getting shipped out. And I'm gonna get, somebody's gonna be a porch pirate and steal me and just steal me away, I guess. Once I get put on the steps of the college. But I like to share with my students, when is that John 15:15 says, I no longer call you servants, because a servant does not know what his master's business. Instead, I call you friends, for everything I learned from my father, I have made known to you.
Yep.
And so I say, look, our relationship changes, right? You're no longer a kid in my youth ministry. You're now on a different, we have a different relationship. It's not like, I'm not asking you to bring, I'm not asking you to clean the youth room anymore. I'm not asking you to, throw away the pizza boxes. I'm saying, look, now you're a college student. Now we can, you call me anytime. Hopefully we had that relationship all along. But listen, you're moving into a different environment, and I'm here to help you navigate that environment, just like I helped you navigate this environment. And so I think it's super
That's
important.
right.
I think it's super, super great advice, Tommy. So let's go through all the things. So I want to make sure that everybody's watching, everybody's listening, gets those resources. So go through the list of how, first of all, all the things they can get in as part of the launch mission, and then also your social. Where can people contact you for those things?
Yeah. So our website is thelaunchmission.org. That's kind of the hub for everything that we have. So on there, you can find out more about the youth pastor training called Mission Control. It is 8 weeks. It starts June 1st, goes for 8 weeks, and then another session starts, and then another session starts. We'll do 3 sessions between June 1st and sometime in November or December. Sign up for the one that fits your schedule the most. And like I said, I've got a cost for that. And if that's not affordable, then I've got 2 other options to make it affordable for literally everybody. And so if you want to structure your ministry so that you're sending your students out prepared, the youngest to the oldest, then you need to spend 8 weeks with me, and let's go through that. You'll get I think 10 times the value of what you paid for it. Um, the the podcast, the Launch Mission podcast. I mean, we will continue to go, and of course, like all podcasts, all previous episodes are available. So, I mean, you could actually do a mini term right now with your students, either your graduating seniors or your juniors this summer, and look through our list of episodes. And I mean, I don't know, there's a bunch of them. And find the topics that you want to hear. The blog kind of goes consistently with the um with the podcast. And then books they're all on the website. I've written 10 books, and most of them are on this topic. But the freshman 15 is kind of the one that is probably most geared towards graduating seniors, as it's a devotional for your first semester in college. Instagram, Facebook is at the Launch Mission. We're on YouTube and TikTok too, but I don't do that. I got somebody on staff that does that. So I think it's at the Launch Mission also. And it's basically just clips from the podcast. My email is tommy@thelaunchmission.org. Would love to, connect with anybody that wants to ask questions or talk, have a phone call, any of that. I do that all the time. Would love to do it with them.
Tommy, that is fantastic. Thank you so much for coming by today and sharing all these resources. But I just think that's youth pastors, if you're wanting to make it a part of your DNA of your youth ministry, you need to go ahead and get a hold of Tommy. You need to go to all the links. You need to go ahead and by the way, too, you have a free thing too that youth pastors can grab too, don't they?
Yeah. So forgot. So it's just a PDF called the 10 things that a youth pastor needs to do before they send students away from their ministry after graduation. And all of those 10 things will be hit in the mission control training. It's kind of a summary of what the training consists of. But I go ahead and give you those 10 things. You can go to thelaunchmission.org, and right there on the main page, there's a subscribe button where you can subscribe, and I'll trade you the PDF for an email so that you can learn more about what we do.
There you go. There you go. So youth pastors, be sure to go there. Like I said, all the links are down in the show notes or down in the description, and you can get a hold of your free resource and start getting an idea of the things that you're going to dive into far deeper than what even Tommy's explained today. So go ahead and get that resource for yourself. Tommy, any last little bit, anything you want to say to youth pastors during this graduate, something you want to encourage them with?
Wow. Yeah. Let's see. Your ministry is not your job, it's your calling. And so, that's why you'll do much more than what you get paid to do. But know how valuable and important it is to the students. You are making such an impact on the lives of people, and that's why it has to be a calling. And so thank you for what you do. We all have had mentors in our life and continue to have mentors in our life that make an impact on us. And a teenager, I mean, they're at the prime time where they need that. And so, I've got two teenage boys, and I can't even imagine their life without the mentors and that pour into them. And so just maybe that'll encourage you. I'd love to meet you and get to know you and partner with you in ministry, and we can do that in all these ways that I've mentioned. And we just want to help you and equip you as much as I can in the calling that I've been given, where I get to focus on one topic 24/7. So would love to have a chance to to share that with more people.
Tommy, thank you so much for coming by today, and thank you for sharing all your wisdom with us today. I hope many people come by, check out the resources, and decide that they're gonna do their part of making this a part of the DNA of their ministry.
Man, thank you. I'm grateful for you and all that you do, and for having me today.